So for years, to move someone from one class to another, it's been a process of dropping a student from their prior class, enrolling them in their new class, and then cleaning up transactions, dealing with potential duplicate billings, and other possible problems in moving those students around. Our clients have asked us for an easier way of doing things, and we came up with a swap class feature. And I think it's going to help a lot of our clients easily move students, especially between days and times in similar classes, where it's really not a move from one entire different class to another, but more just moving from one time to another. First off, I think we'll take a look at what it used to be like to add someone to a class and then move them to another class. So I'm going to just use an example class. I've got a number of test classes here covering all sorts of different disciplines. I'm going to choose this acro class XX, or 20 I guess is what that stands for, and we're going to take a look at the enrolled students in this class. Now if I wanted to take Bria Locks, for example, actually let's take someone who's been in this class for a while, Grace Duquesne. And I'm going to move her from this class to another class that I've got that's similar. It just meets on a different day and time. This particular class meets on a Tuesday at 7:35, and I want to move her to a Thursday class. She's been in this class for a long time. When I click on her enrollment record, I get the standard update or drop class screen. You'll notice we have our new swap class button down there. I'm not going to use that for this first round, just to kind of show you what this was like doing a drop and re-enroll into another class before. So the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to click on our drop button, and it's going to ask me, do I want to drop with history or no history? In this case I want to drop with history since she's been in this class for a while. I'm going to put in a message that she needs to move to a Thursday class due to a change in their parents' schedule. And I'm going to also have an email sent to the instructor so that they know someone's being dropped from their class. I'm going to go ahead and process that drop. That's going to drop Grace Duquesne from that class. Approve that, and boom, now she's dropped out. We still have history. I can go back and look at all my students, and actually she's still showing right here, just now with a drop status and the information on that drop once I hover my mouse over it. Now let's pull up our class listing and move Grace into the class that we wanted her in, which is now this Thursday class. I'm going to select the class. I'm going to go over to my sidebar menu, and I'm going to choose Enroll Students. And then I'm going to find Duquesne. I'm going to just type in the first few letters of her last name, click my refresh button. There she is. And let's go ahead and do an enrollment on her. Just scoot this window down. She has a flat tuition rate. That's fine. And I'm going to go ahead and complete this enrollment. Alright, so I just moved her from one class to another. It took a few steps. I'm also probably going to need to go to her parents' record. I'm going to click on the customer, search for that customer's last name. There's Mindy. Pull up the record. I see Grace down there as her child. That's perfect. And I'm going to go to the transaction screen for this customer. So I've got a lot of history on billing for the class that I just dropped her from. I may have even billed the current month for the class that I dropped her from. And then when I re-enroll her in her new class, I generally will be generating a new tuition charge. In this case, she was a flat tuition student, which mix this up a little bit, but normally I would have posted that first month's charge partial for the month of June, which is the month that we're currently in. And I may have had to come in here and void out one of the charges from the current month from the old class because I've just posted a new charge for the new class in the current month as well. I may have even had to make some adjustments for prorating or a difference in pricing. It can get a little complicated. So now let's talk about what we've just introduced with the new swap class feature. So I don't need to necessarily do all of these steps anymore of dropping a student, then re-enrolling them in a new class, and then coming back to the customer transaction screen to look at their history of payments and charges and see if I need to void out old charges, duplicate charges for a current month if they're moving within a month that's already been billed. A lot of different things that we need to deal with. So let's talk about the swap class feature and what's going on here. I'm going to go back to my class listing. I'm going to go into a musical theater class that we've got. And we're going to pull up one of the students in this class and go ahead and do an enrollment. Well, actually, we're going to take an existing enrollment from this class and we're going to swap this student from one class to another. So let's look and see who's in this class currently. There's Grace. We just put her in this class, so let's not use her. But let's use maybe Cameron Livingood. I'm going to click on the Edit Drop from Cameron. Here's our screen again. And we know Cameron was enrolled back in 2015 in this class. I just happen to be looking at her record here. So here's her date enrolled, which was back in 2015. So this family's been billed for many months in this same class. One of the challenges when you move someone from one class to another is all that billing history that's out there. If you were to happen to go back and run a billing cycle for monthly charges in a prior month, when you do a drop and then a new enroll, you could end up billing for months that were considered already billed for the original class that the student was in before they were moved to the new class. With the swap class feature, there's an option, which you'll see here in a moment, which allows us to pull all that billing history that ClassJuggler tracks in the background forward and apply it to the new class that we swap the student into. So let's see how this works. So currently we're looking at her class in Musical Theater 11. Instead of doing a drop and then a re-enroll, we're going to use our new swap class button. I'm going to click on this, and this is going to walk us through all the steps that we need to do to make this swap. So there's some nice instructions here at the top. It gives us some important messages and things to consider. All charges for tuition and miscellaneous fees for the old class will remain. It's telling us no new tuition charges will be created as part of the swap, and any attendance records will remain with the original class, which in this case we actually want all of these things because the history of Cameron being in the original class is still valid. She was in that Tuesday class all the way back to November of 2015. She just happens to need to move to a different day moving forward just because of a schedule change. So we want all that original history and we don't want to lose any of that. So what ClassJuggler is going to walk us through is actually doing a drop because we are dropping her from the original class, but we're not permanently dropping her and then starting over with a new enrollment. We're doing a swap. So the first thing we're going to do is just say, just moving to a new day. That's going to be our message for why she's being swapped. And then we'll see we've got a button here in the middle and a divider that says select a new class for this student. And this will be the class that we're going to move her to. So we're going to be moving her from the 11 class to the 16 class. So that she's moving from the Musical TT11 to the Musical TT16 Plus. Now once we've selected our class, we've put in our drop reason, we have a couple swapped class options down at the bottom of the screen. So the first one is we need to choose what we're going to do with the billing history for the original class. So you'll see the copy billing history. We have two options. We can either take all the history from the original class and apply it to the new class. If we choose that option, what that's going to do is it's going to honor any months that that original class, the one that met on a Tuesday, the Musical TT11, any billing that was originally done for that class. So if we billed all the way from November up till May, or even into June, since we're most of the way through June, it's going to remember that those months were billed and apply it to our new class. So if we were to run a June billing cycle again, possibly to correct or add some additional charges for some other classes, it wouldn't then go and bill the musical TT16 Plus because it's considered already billed because we billed the musical TT11. That's a really powerful feature if you think about it. Because of that wonderful feature ClassJuggler has of remembering the prior billed months, we can apply those prior billed flags forward to the new class so that we prevent duplicate charges on the new class and still honor any of the prior billing. If for some reason we had some specific reason not to keep that history, maybe we're just moving from one class to another that we enrolled in earlier the month and we hadn't billed yet, I could select do not copy the billing history, which would then allow ClassJuggler to generate new history for this new class. In this case though, because that was so far back, November of 2015, I want to take all that internal billing history from that original class and apply it forward. So that's the copy billing history. Now let's talk about the second option, which is the new class enrollment date. We have the option of using the original enrollment date for the class or using the current date for the new class enrollment. Let's talk about what those two mean. There's a nice little help tip here that we can click on to learn more about that, but I'm going to explain it. So in this case, because we're wanting to maintain some history on the original class, I actually want to maintain the original enrollment date. So it seems like she's been in this TT16 class since day one. To do that, I would choose this first option, which says use the original enrollment date, which came from the musical TT11 class, which met on Tuesdays, which was November 16 of 2015. If I decided, you know what, I'd like this to appear as though it's a brand new enrollment, or if I was moving someone that I had just previously enrolled within the same month in a class, I might use the current date for the new class enrollment, as though I were just putting someone in brand new on today's date. So it's really up to you to decide which one of those options makes more sense when you're going back and looking at the history of these enrollments on the classes. I'm going to choose the first option though. And then we always have the wonderful option here which says email the instructors with information about the student being transferred. And this is kind of an enhanced version of the original email, which allows you to tell when a student is added or dropped from a class. This will actually communicate to both the teacher of the original class, or teachers if there's more than one instructor in a class, to tell them here's a student that's being moved to another day and time, and it will communicate via email to the new instructors of the class the student is being moved into. So it handles all the back and forth communication for you during this swap class. So let's go ahead and complete our swap. I'm going to just click on the swap class button down below here. It's going to verify it with me. I'm going to say, yep, I'm ready to go. And after a second, it says boom, and now we've swapped that student. There's also some additional information that it puts on the old and the new class. So here's the original class, the TT11. It's now showing Cameron Living Good as dropped, and when I hover over the dropped column to see the enrollment status for this student, it just shows moving to a new day. Now if we go to the class listing and pull up the class we just moved Cameron to, and then over on our sidebar menu select the View Manage Enrollment, there's Cameron listed right there. Now when we look at Cameron on this class, you'll notice we have some enrollment notes that are linked to her name, and it shows us that she was swapped from class ID 445526. If we ever wanted to go back and look for that class, because class names can change, it's good to have the ID of the class. All I have to do is go back to my class listing and search for that class. 445526, let's go to the listing and do that. And there it is. There's the musical TT11. So I've always got that ID number to go back and look at history if I ever needed to kind of retrace my steps and understand what happened during that class swap. And if we go back now and look at Cameron's record, let's do that. I'm going to just link through the class enrollment record. That's sometimes easier for me to do. I'm going to click on Living Good. That'll take me to the student. Then I'm going to use the Return to Customer button to go back to the parents record. And then we can look in the customer transactions to see that, yes, indeed, we did not generate a new charge for this class because we're essentially bringing all the historical charges from the original class plus any recent charges we posted forward for this new class. So hopefully you can all see how much easier it is to move students from one class to another without generating duplicate billing, and also maintaining all of that billing history from prior classes when you move those students, or in this case swap those students from an older class to a newer class. Now let's take a few minutes and open up for questions and see if anybody has